Okay, everyone, thank you very much indeed for your patience. We go to our last panel of the day. Where has the time gone? This is the Women in Sustainability panel. I'd like to introduce my guests from the far side. We have Lindsay Hooper, Interim CEO, Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. Also joining us, Shirley Robertson, Head of Strategic Planning and Sustainability, SSEN Distribution. Anissa Camadilla Costa, Chief Sustainability Officer and President and Trustee at Rivian Foundation. Andrea Debain, Sustainability Director, Jaguar Land Rover, and Sarah McDonald, VP Sustainability at Haleon. A warm welcome to all our guests, please. One of the big challenges of this job is getting all the job titles in. I apologise. Thank you. Right, we push on. A lot to discuss over the next sort of half an hour or so. And where I particularly want to start is looking at your own individual industries, because it's very easy for us to say, yes, women in sustainability, good thing, progress is being made, we can look in general terms, let's say we've answered that question already. I really want to look at the individual industries. So I'll start with you, Lindsay. How do you feel women have influenced sustainability in your particular industry and really sort of shape the direction of practices? Where would you stand on that?
So I've been in this space for nearly 25 years now, and I think women have really significantly shaped it. When I started out, it was a domain in which there were some wonderful male thinkers, gurus, who were founding NGOs and coming up with a framing of sustainability. And I was told when I first started out, the world really only wanted to hear from alpha males. And our clients that we were working with, we would have a lot of males in environment, health and safety roles and females in corporate responsibility, philanthropy, communications roles. The sustainability movement has shifted really significantly over those 25 years. And I think in some ways, because it was almost a blank sheet, it was an opportunity for women to step up and step in and create, contribute to creating an industry. And I think women are now in this space in incredibly powerful leadership roles. So just in my sector, we have really influential female scientists influencing policy and media. We have entrepreneurs emerging from universities. We've got women leading really powerful business coalitions to have impact, leading political engagement and business engagement. So we've made a lot of progress, but what I would say is that there is still a challenge in that sustainability both as an industry, as a function, is not taken seriously enough. It's still seen as somewhat soft, somewhat nice to have. It's the first place that budgets are cut. People in senior roles in sustainability, CSOs may give you a route to C-suite, but it's not a fast track to CEO. It's not the best paid jobs. And the bigger the NGO, although we do have a lot of very effective NGO female leaders, the evidence shows that the bigger the organization, the more the assets, the more likely it is it will be led by a male. So I think there are challenges still, still gender bias, and there are really fundamental challenges still about how seriously sustainability is taken.
Thank you. I'll open that to the rest of the panel, whoever wishes to take that next.
Yeah, I can maybe go next. So I work at Haleon, which is a consumer healthcare company, and you might know it from everyday products we make, like Sensodyne, Panadol, Advil, that type of thing. We sit across two industry sectors. So I'm going to maybe talk a little bit about how women in sustainability have influenced the consumer goods industry, but also the pharma and healthcare industry, because we kind of sit across the two. I would say in the consumer goods industry, one of the big unlocks is how do you make sustainability relevant for consumers and a motivating reason for people to prefer buy your brands to demonstrate a clear business case. So there are women that are in leading roles across a number of big FMCG companies, myself, Unilever, P&G, Reckitt, others. And I think working closely with the marketing departments, one of the unlocks has been to make this part of the brand proposition so that you can demonstrate that it drives sales, uplift, volume growth, and create that commercial pool so that it becomes something that the business wants to do. Turning to the healthcare side, I think a different angle is making the link between how issues in society are impacting people's health has been key to getting the healthcare industry and healthcare professionals to really care about this agenda and want to take action to make healthcare more sustainable. So things like the impact that climate change is having on health, the way it's affecting people's respiratory health, etc., I think creates a real burning platform in the healthcare industry to act, because it's very clear that the two agendas are linked, and women working in sustainability roles and people in general working in sustainability roles, making that link, I think really drives an incentive for change in the healthcare industry.
I think I'll just pick up on that and say from the automotive industry. So I just joined in February, JLR, and I'd previously been in aviation. And I think when you're going into manufacturing, the sustainability tends to be very focused on the product and decarbonization and the targets, et cetera. And the automotive industry has been looking at that for years. I think that what women bring in is a different perspective. So I was just joined the board a week ago, and we also have another woman in industrial operations who's on the board. And I think what women do is we bring in the value and the culture piece. And this is really transformational for sustainability. We heard about it earlier today from someone who's on the stage and talked about moving from ESG to ESL, the leadership piece. And I think this is really important. And I think this is the power of women in the role of sustainability today, is we take it to another level. And it's only when we can embed sustainability as a company value that we'll really start to see that transformational change. And it gives permission. It gives permission to everybody in the organization, not just those who have a sustainability role or sustainability somewhere on their job title or somewhere in the matrix organization, but it really gives the entire organization permission to work on things that are really important to them. We had a really good example where we had, again, a woman in our creative area, and who really promoted the innovative process of finding a sustainable material for the interiors of our vehicles, and really drove that right to fruition. So now we have a sustainable material as part of the vehicle and part of the value proposition to customers. So I think that is the one thing I've seen with women in this role, is taking it from targets to really culture and value.
Well, I think, so I work at Rivian, which is an electric vehicle company based in the United States. And when you're looking at, hard power versus soft power, or authority versus influence, I think what you've seen is that traditionally leaders in sustainability don't have equal access from a budgetary perspective, or frankly, even a decision-making process perspective, right? And so what we've needed to do over the years is sort of bring those other skills to the table, things that women are, I think, exceptionally good at: creative processes, building allies across the organization, not just at your counterpart level, but like all throughout, up and down, and often lifting up those allies from other parts of the business, as well as externally, and I think that's a key role and key skills that lead to success for women in the sustainability space.
I work in the energy industry in the UK, and what we're seeing in my experience from women in sustainability is that real policy advocacy in the UK, and from government policy to energy policy, and the ability to see beyond a price control or a limited period of time, that ability to see what the impact is going to be in the longer term, so looking at future generational impact and making sure the policy is driven towards that. It's quite a heavily male-dominated environment, very engineer-driven, and what we're seeing and what I've witnessed is that real collaborative piece and that skill set to bring people together, to move beyond boundaries, work beyond the walls that they're working in, to get to that right solution. And you're seeing innovation come in to find the solutions to these problems to enable that energy transition, which is brilliant to see. I'm an engineer myself, and you can see that bridge between that engineering and getting the policy right, and the engineering solutions to deliver on that policy is what's driven us forward over the last decade.
Thank you, Shirley. If I can move on to what I'm imaginatively going to call the advice section of this panel. You can imagine why I got that title. It is looking, frankly, things that people can take away here. So for businesses, we'll start from that end of the discussion. What can businesses do to really create more inclusive environments to empower and support women in sustainability roles? Shirley, you finished there, but I'll ask you to pick up from there. What were your thoughts there?
So I think for the empowerment bit is really key. So nobody needs another box ticker. So if you're giving somebody that role and bringing people in, you need to set them up for success. You need to be able to give them the ability to make decisions at the most sensible level and be able to take that impact. So go forward on the conviction. We don't just want a big, a fancy story or a fancy brochure put out once a year on a sustainability report. It's about being able to set that person or that team up for success to be able to deliver on the actions. Be honest as well. Like what a lot of the conversations I have with our senior directors is be honest about your impact that you have and be accountable for that and how you're going to manage that going forward, whether that's carbon or oil leakage or whatever that happens to be in that sector, how you're going to fix it, and really set your whoever it is in that role that's setting those targets that you're going to then deliver on it and be serious about it. The other part is education, training, really trusting your person, trusting your expert, and giving them that position that they are the expert in that field. You can come across a lot of different opinions, and it can be really difficult, it can be an obstacle to move forward and actually achieve targets. But really trust your experts. Don't just bring them in to create that glossy brochure.
It's really critical to make sure to bring in the sustainability and impact teams, whatever the team might be called, because there's not, the consistency that I think we need within the field in terms of titles. But I think it's really important to make sure that you bring in the sustainability team at the beginning and throughout processes, right? All too often, and this is the case with other departments as well, we bring them in and consult, in the middle or perhaps at the end. And I think you want to make sure and always be thoughtful who is around the table, how consistently are they there at that table with you, and are you giving them an equal voice in the conversation?
I think that if you're in a position of leadership, the best thing that you can do is actually celebrate successes, and even if they're small successes, and give that airtime, give that visibility to your team, and women, men, whatever, if it's gender or across the spectrum of diversity that and inclusivity that we're all trying to promote. I think from a business perspective, the most important thing is, we often see that when people are up for promotion, and I've often heard when a woman's name comes up, oh, she's not ready. And if you ask a woman, often she'll say, well, I'm not ready because I think just we've never been really, at least from my generation, I can say, really pushed to say that we are ready. If you ask a man, he'll always tell you he's ready. And I think it's important for those who are in the positions, who are promoting, to keep that in mind. Give the benefit of the doubt. And for the women who are considering, who want to be promoted, not to be shy. You have to say, hey, wait a minute, I am ready. And you have to be, have the courage to speak up and say, give me the benefit of the doubt. I'm ready, I can do this.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going to take the advice section next. We're going to flip it. So we'll hold that thought. We will pick up on that further, absolutely. If we could just continue, and then we'll come back to those points.
Okay, I would pick up on 2 points. One is mentorship and allyship. So I think to help people from diverse backgrounds, whether women or other diverse backgrounds, get ahead in their chosen profession, it's really important to have strong mentors that help you develop, give you confidence to go for it, as you were saying. And also help you make those connections, because there's the skill side and the competence side, but there's also having the network and the connectivity that helps you get ahead. So I think that's really important. And having development programs that help support people from diverse backgrounds to get ahead. Haleon has, I think, usefully 2 programs, one called Accelerate that helps people from diverse backgrounds build their confidence to get ahead, and another called Lead that helps leaders get good at helping people from diverse backgrounds get ahead. And I think the 2 are important, and you need them both to work together.
Yeah, they complement each other very well. Lindsay, final word on that? Advice to businesses going in that
Well,
direction?
I would fully support everything that's been shared. I think the things that I would add would be start by that recognising that we business have an imperative to take action. It's not nice to have. You can't do business on a dead planet, so this is core. I think make sure that the mindset and the reason why you would be supporting diversity and women leaders is not to tick a box. It's because of the value that that brings, the innovation, the creativity. We need, the breadth of talents and capabilities. And I think also a recognition that bias still exists. There's a real risk that because there are so many senior, powerful females in sustainability, there may be a perception that actually there is no bias, but there still is. If you look at the Reykjavik Index, it shows that women as well, this isn't just men, and worrying actually, there's a real younger generations increasingly don't think women should be trusted in senior positions in power. There's a trend towards that. So I think some bias still exists. It's not a majority view, but it's a significant minority. So at career points, whether it's initial recruitment, promotion, induction, then making sure that you're just catching that and making sure that that doesn't tilt things in the wrong direction. And then I suppose more practical things would be flexible working and making sure that we're bringing and giving space to female perspectives in areas where they've got particular experience, like they often bear the caring load a little more. It's changing, but we, having to juggle for multiple outcomes. For instance, we can't choose, do we use land for food or biodiversity? It has to be both. So the expertise of juggling for multiple outcomes, I think also the lived experience of injustice. The failure to tackle injustice is one of the biggest barriers to progress. And I think that we have more experience of that, but also insight into a lot of the practical solutions to that. And I would also say that women get a disproportionate amount of criticism, so that stepping in, celebrating, supporting female voices, and sticking up, being an ally when people are being challenged.
As you've raised the bias
Yes.
issue, I'm going to pull on that thread because
Yes.
I wanted to come to that later,
Yes.
but you've raised it now.
Yes.
So
Sure.
let's see if we're not going to solve this now, but I'd love to know all of your thoughts on how we can stop that, because everyone knows it exists. Everyone says they're trying to do something about it. And I'm sure most people, if they were told there's bias within your organisation, they'd be shocked and aghast and disgusted. But I'm sure there won't be someone in this room who would disagree that the bias exists in some shape or form. But as you brought that up, Lindsay, do you want to carry on from where you were? How can we try and reduce it, remove it? How can we make progress there?
So I think some of it is just being aware of it, aware that it exists, aware that, we will sit with it. These are long-standing cultural norms built up over a very long period of time. So I think we need to be realistic about our ability to reshape entire cultural norms. But what we can do is step in to make sure that that doesn't negatively impact the decisions that we make. We can, for instance, in the way that we make decisions, we don't always have to make decisions based on whose voice is loudest in the room at the time and suggest that women always have to contribute in that way. We can have creative different ways of having consultations, making decisions. We can make sure that key career stages are really transparent and clear about the capabilities that are needed. We can put in mentoring. We can make sure we have good transparency, governance and accountability, more role models, more visibility. We can give more women platforms. We can train them for important moments when there is a really high stakes presentation. There are a whole range of measures that we can take, but I think, picking our battles. We can't necessarily set ourselves up to, within just a few years, change the entirety of society, but we can certainly make progress.
I'll open it up to the rest of the panel. Anyone who wishes to add to that, how can we look to reduce and eventually get closer to eradicating bias? I'll open that to the whole panel.
Yeah, I was going to pick up on something from the consumer industry, which is to kind of design it out. And I'm going to pick on a specific example. So people working in the industry might be aware of the Unstereotype Alliance, which is a program of work that's been done looking at bias in advertising and underrepresentation of certain groups or how groups are portrayed in communication. And what it's shown is that when you have progressive representations of people, it not only makes people more included, it actually makes your creative more efficient, more effective, and gives a greater return on investment. And what the Unstereotype Alliance has done is create simple tools that you can use at the briefing stage, at the script stage, at the casting stage, at the shooting stage, to help you as an advertiser consciously design out bias. And so I think things like that, where you can systematically recognize that it's there and design it out by having tools and demonstrate that not only is it a good thing to do, but it's a commercially sensible thing to do is really helpful.
I'd pick up on it and say, well, design it out. I'd say call it out.
Yeah.
You have to speak up, because unless you speak up, first of all, no one will recognize it, and secondly, they'll think that it's acceptable. So it's for all of us here. We're empowered, whatever that situation is to speak up. And I would just quote Vice President Kamala Harris, I'm not American, but I love listening to the debates, who really made the point and said, I'm talking, Mr. Vice President. Do not talk over me. I have something to say. Listen, and it's important. And I think it's a good role model. It's a good way. It's up to us to call out those biases.
Yeah, I think they could be very famous words in the future, potentially.
Yes. And, we certainly have a voice, so I think speaking out in the moment is important, but also empowering our teams, right? Figuring out when we can put not just female leaders, but leaders forward, right? Ensuring that they have a seat at the table. And I think that's increasingly an opportunity that we have, especially with online meetings, right? There aren't necessarily a defined number of seats around a physical table. And I think we have to make sure that we're empowering the folks around us along with our peers.
Yeah, I would agree with all of what's been said, and I really resonate with the bit that it's up to us. We can stand up and call that out. I think there's bias across everything, and we'll all be guilty of it at some stage in our careers. So it's really checking with yourself as well. Are you making the most sensible decision here? Is that being influenced by something that's unfair? And accepting that it does exist. Don't think that you won't fall victim to it, because you very well may do that, and really check yourself out for that, and of course others too.
Thank you, Shirley. What I'm going to do is return to something, Andrea, you were saying a moment ago, before I moved us on slightly, which is the advice from the other way. Because I'm sure there are plenty of women entering the sustainability industry. It's a career path that is just going to grow and grow and grow. What advice would all of you have? You have all had a great deal of success. It is why you are on this stage. What advice would you have for someone joining the industry, joining the sector, and wanting to get themselves heard, wanting to progress? Andrea, as you brought it up, I'll leave you to start on this. What would your thoughts be?
Have the courage. Have the courage to speak up. Have the courage to try. Have the courage to voice who you are. Be your authentic self. And have the courage to state what you want, what you are expecting. And just turn around whenever you're lacking that courage and look at all the generations of women behind you. They have opened the door. They have made progress along the way to allow you to be in the position that you're in today to continue that journey. You're not alone. And there's been a long journey ahead, but we've come a long way. And so you have to feel empowered that it's now with you to be part of that journey. And that resides within you.
I would say, if you're looking at an opportunity, look at the role, of course, but it's really, really important to take a step back and look at the team that you'd be working in. Look at the manager that you'd be reporting to, and then, of course, look at the company overall from a sustainability perspective. Because I think if you go to a company where you know that they really, truly value sustainability, then it doesn't matter, which department that you're in necessarily, but you need to make sure you're working with the right team and the right manager that's going to support you and lift you up in your career overall. And then you can find your opportunities, again, especially with sustainability, that really cuts across every single department these days to make an impact.
Just building on that, I think if I were to give myself some advice back from my 20-year-old self, it would be find your passion. What is it that you're really passionate about, and what can you deliver on? I wanted to fix the world all at the same time, and it's impossible to do that. So really find your passion and find something that you can deliver on. Get that track record for delivering things. Build your credibility. That's how you do it. And go and just go for it. Don't doubt yourself. Keep going. If you need to learn something, learn it. Take another course. Re-educate. I started as a civil engineer, went back and did a master's in international policy. It can be done, and all at the same time of progressing my career and having children and everything else. So just go for it.
Yeah, maybe come in. I was given a great piece of advice when I took on the role that I've got now, which involved me stepping up to a more senior position. And actually a very good male ally in my previous company said to me, when you go in, start from day one, take your space and act like the way you mean to go on. So don't go in and build, go in and boss it from the beginning, was basically what he said to me. And I'm looking at Steph in the front row, who's in my team. So I have really tried to do that, and it was a brilliant piece of advice to, you know, when you move company, when you take on a more senior role, start as you mean to go on, and don't let the, you know, voice of doubt bring you down. The other thing I would say is keep learning. One of the reasons I love working in sustainability is that there's always new stuff to learn, and you need to stay on top of it because it's moving super fast. So grab all the opportunities you can to keep learning, to get into different areas of it. Because also, as you said, you'll find different passion points of where you want to go next. So that'd be my two things.
Would completely agree with the start with something that you really enjoy. It can be a long, quite bumpy journey. If you're going to have the resilience to keep going through the challenging times, it needs to be something that you really enjoy doing so that you've got the resilience and the grit to keep going. And I think to some of Andrea's points, just putting yourself out there in the challenging spaces, taking on the tough stuff, but being clear what you're bringing. You need to have real value and skills. It needs to be something that you're actually really good at and you're bringing value to what you're doing. You also need to be meeting someone's need or solving someone's problem. We get a lot of people just talking to us wanting to get into the space, but passion and capability isn't enough. You need to know who's your audience, who's your market, whose problem are you solving. And then in addition to the just bossing it from the beginning, I would say if you want to have impact, change is hard, it's bumpy, it's awkward. You can't be a crowd pleaser and always popular if you want to make things change. You have to know that up front and remind yourself that you're not doing it to be popular, you're doing it to have an impact. So be ready for that. If it's not uncomfortable, you're probably not pushing enough and you may not be having enough impact. So I think be braced for that. You need allies. You need to keep reminding yourself what you're trying to do if things don't land well. And yes, of course, you'll hit bias. Don't be deflected by it. Stand up, call it out, but don't be deflected. Be clear about what your purpose is. Don't get caught up in other people's races, and make sure you've got great friends that you can go and either celebrate with or commiserate over a glass of wine.
I really like that. I think one of the good is being comfortable and uncomfortable. Yeah. You have to be like that, particularly in the changing environment that we have, and don't let perfection cause you. I'm a bit of a perfectionist in that. Just get on and do it.
And I think there's an interesting fine line to walk as well, right? As being in this space, I think one often feels like they need to align with sort of maybe the financial side, the more hard skills side, which of course is important. But I think it's also really critical to not forget that sustainability brings other sorts of business value, and not to forget that other side, right? Especially in harder economic times where things are crunched in a slightly different way.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for all of those perspectives. I'm really keen to go to the room as early as I can on this one because I'm sure we will have some questions. I've got plenty more, but I do like to go to the room. Any hands? Yes, we do, immediately over there. Which one was first?
Thank you for all the advice. I just want to say, firstly, thank you to all the guys in the audience as a first step of allyship and wanting to learn more. And just to kind of extend on that, how can we help them support us? I think it's all inevitable that sometimes it's in the rooms that we're not in that the biases really kind of get set in or are heard properly. Just to reflect, if you ask potentially most guys what misogyny is, they'll say pay gap or kind of not getting promotion, whereas we know it can be a lot bit more subtle than that. So how do we help guys help us?
I've got quite good examples. I work in a very male-dominated environment and I'm very often the only female in the room, but you're so right, it's what happens outside of that room that you need that support and the advocacy there, and it's building that network out, demonstrating your worth. yourself and building that network of colleagues that do believe in you as well and can be that cheerleader for you. I'm in a really fortunate position at the moment that I have a boss that's amazing and he lets me stand on his shoulders and really propels the work that I do. But yeah, it's building that network out, building that advocacy support, and again, taking the notion yourself to demonstrate your credibility whenever you can do.
I'd also add to that and say, be honest. I've also worked in completely male-dominated industries and environments, and I think there's a side of women where we can show our vulnerability, and I think that's important with that, while keeping your strength, because I think we're very resilient. I think women are resilient, and I think it's the resilience that has to come through. You're not going to give up. You're here. You can be pushed aside or knocked down, but you're going to get back up. Don't try and be a tough guy, because we're not tough guys, we're women. And I think this is really important. I think this is where I personally have seen a lot of change in the professional environment that I really embrace and welcome, is this, at least in the company that I'm in now, is this culture where you can speak up, where you can voice your vulnerability, where you can voice your concerns. And I think this is really important, is just to be honest. It goes back to that, say it, call it out. You're not comfortable. Why not? How would you rather see things evolve? It's really up to us to take the opportunity that's there to be able to involve our colleagues in those discussions and be part of it.
Thank you. I am going to go back to the room just to try and get another question in. So if there were further hands, I'll just go over here.
Thanks. And yeah, echo, thanks for all the advice. A bit of an observation and then a question of that. Noticed that a lot of the people attending this conference, probably 60, 75% women, but I've also noticed a lot of the speakers are a lot mainly male, although this panel accepted. How can we as an industry kind of make sure we're championing, spotlighting women at things like this, in the press and that sort of thing?
I think we can do that by ensuring that when we're asked to serve on a panel, I always ask who else is on the panel, and usually they'll come to you at the early stages, right? So you can help be a part of shaping that panel, ensuring again that you're bringing other women along with you, and looking and stepping back and looking at the overall agenda, right? So I think that we all have a role to use our voice to speak to that, to bring folks that we know. And by the way, at different levels, I'm a real fan of not just bringing, I'm very conscious of the fact that like as CSOs, we often get asked to speak, and when we speak, we're speaking on behalf of not just our teams, but so many folks across the company, right, doing work together. So I think that that's one of the main ways. And I would add one other thing, and that is, support each other online, right? LinkedIn presence, like just be a support group for one another. I think we can all use that and help elevate our voices and our impact.
So that's a challenge that we particularly find, because a lot of what we're doing through education programs is putting people on platforms and giving them a voice. And we have no shortage of males asking to be on the platform. We find it really hard to persuade women who are just saying, I'm too busy doing the day job, this is not a priority for me. So we have to work really hard, be proactive, build those relationships and add value. People are taking time out of their valuable day, often incredibly busy. How is that going to be helpful for them? But we encouraging female colleagues, not just within, but within our wider network, to speak up, because that can contribute to the wider change. It can have a systemic impact. But our male colleagues also, won't speak on panels if it's an all-male panel. So you can send a signal in other ways too, and stand by principles that we won't have all-male panels, and we won't participate as an organisation or support that. So we can have a knock-on impact and try and encouraging that more people are asking and giving space for more female voices.
The only thing I would add to that really is that give your feedback. Like you're a consumer, so let your voice be heard, or vote with your feet. But yeah, definitely give that feedback back, and that's the only way we'll have real change.
I will say that the last Sustainability Live panel that I was on, which wasn't women focused, was an all-female panel, which was nice and organic. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm afraid we are going to have to leave it there with questions, but yeah, it's genuinely inspiring. As the father of a daughter, this is the sort of thing I'd like to show her. You know, be heard, get your voice heard. Although I did take both my son and my daughter to view a new high school. They're very similar in age. He came away, I asked him his main takeaway, I can get bacon sandwiches using my thumbprint. Her main takeaway was, I want to be head girl. So I think I'm going to be fine. I thank all of you for your time. Thank you for joining us here at Sustainability Live London 2024.